represent. All right. And I've only met, I've met Andres and William and Patrick. Have we met yet?
I believe not.
Yeah, I don't think we met yet. So nice to meet you guys. And
nice to meet you.
What year are you guys? First?
Yep. Oh, freshman, right?
Yeah, I'm a freshman too.
And Andres, are you?
Yeah, freshman.
Oh, okay. So all three of you. Okay, cool. How's it going so far?
Going all right.
Yeah, just it's definitely an interesting time to be a freshman. Yeah, I'm sure you're not getting the full experience, but hopefully soon enough you can, get back to regular college life. So
hopefully, we cross our fingers.
Yeah, next year, you get some good chess in. You got a lot of whenever you have spare time, a lot of training for chess. So I was thinking we could work on tactics today. Just make sure you guys really have a solid method down. We can just work through some tactics that come up. I like chess tempo. There's a few sites you can use, but if you use chess tempo, it's very practical because you often have to follow through. Have you guys ever done that before? William's done it. Okay. Cool.
I've not used the website, but I certainly know what you're talking about with following.
Yeah, it's very practical. I mean, Lichess takes it from users on lichess.org that play there. I'm not sure they have some type of algorithm that just pulls the positions from games, and you can actually watch the game and see how they arrived at that position. And I think chess.com takes it from real games too. So they're all pretty good. But I think chess.com's it might be a few moves, then you're done. But on chess tempo, you have to continue to find accurate moves, which is useful. But we can go over to just having a good method, looking at forcing moves, making calculation trees. Make sure you guys got that down. So when I say forcing moves, have you guys heard about that when it comes to tactics? Okay, in terms of like what are you guys thinking? Like what types of moves generally are forcing moves?
Like when I think of forcing moves, I think of like you play a move such that your opponent only has like one possible move to make.
That's a big part of it, right? You're forcing their hands. That pretty much it'll generally get down to only one reply. And those are, if you have scenarios where they have like 10 different replies, those are actually the hardest to calculate sometimes, right? So if it's super forcing, it's like a checkmating sequence. They don't like in the calculation tree, there would only be essentially one node each time you make a move that they can respond to, right? So that's in some ways it's actually easier if you can do that. But it's kind of like it does make your work easier if you can do forcing moves. Force their hand so you kind of know what to expect in return when it's possible. So I would say, so you start with capture checks, capture with a check. Then you have regular checks. Then you have captures. Then you have threats, and then you have quiet moves. So it's kind of like a pyramid, like a hierarchy of forcing moves. So you have your, I guess I can write it at some point, but you have your capture check. So capture with check, because that's going to ideally open something. Let's say bishop takes f7 check. Ideally, that's going to open something up while checking the king. So they have to react, and you're exposing the king. And then a regular check, okay, obviously they have to respond based on the rules of the game. And then a capture, well, you could just take capture check and you pull the two words from that, right? So next you have capture, and that's, they don't have to react, but if you take a piece that they don't take back, then you're winning a piece, right? So it's somewhat forceful, not as forcing as the top. And then threat, so essentially a threat is like you're threatening to check or threatening to capture, right? You're moving yourself into position to do that. And then you have quiet moves. So essentially, you shouldn't be looking at, some random move like h3 as your first move. You'd be looking at your loudest move first, like a capture check, and that's going to make it it's going to definitely make it easier for you to solve tactics, I think, if you do that. And then we'll talk about as we solve it in terms of looking at, okay, try to imagine what's your opponent's best response to your move, and then you create your calculation tree. I go here, they go here, and so forth. Like kind of like game theory, I guess. Anticipating what your opponent or your rival or whoever it is, what they can do. So let's open up chesstempo.com. Just pull that to a different window. All right, I'll share that with you guys. Oops. Okay. All right, so you can do end games on here too. You can do regular tactics or end games. So that's a really useful trainer too, or guess the moves of master games. So let's just do regular tactics. So we'll start with that, see how you guys do. We could work our way up. Okay, I think there wasn't, did you see that, Anthony, when I tried to stream it, or when I tried to share the screen, it didn't work.
Why don't you try that again?
Okay. I don't know if it
think
affected
I'm
because of the
sharing.
stream or something, or it was some error with Chrome. Let me try it again. 1 second. I was trying to open a new tab because the other tab had a bunch of things open simultaneously, and apparently that didn't work. Let's see. Let's get rid of that. Or in the meantime, if it doesn't work, you guys can pull it up on another site, but I think we should get there in a second. So you guys are not seeing my share screen right now, right?
No, it is not sharing. When you hit the share screen and then hit the, the little blue share button, what do you see?
Oh, now it says, now it's an issue with Chrome, I think. Let me close it. Yeah, I'm just going to close it and reopen it.
All right, yeah. Sometimes those things can get stuck.
Yeah, too many chess pages open at once. I think let's open it up again.
Chess can be very taxing.
Yeah. Okay. We got chesstempo.com. And okay. Let's see what you, okay, I'm going to try and share it again. Okay, good. I think we should be good now. All right. You guys see it coming up?
Yeah, I
Yep.
see it.
Okay, here we go. So this is chess tempo. Go to training, and hopefully this time the tactics actually opens. Yeah, there's just too many things. There we go. Chess tactics, start solving. So let's just do a few on easy, because like I said, I mean, it actually is pretty difficult. I mean, it's probably starting at 1800 or 1600 or something. Okay, so the first one is, says black to move. See the knight on the black knight on the top left. Okay, so white's just moved the knight here. So what are some, we want to start with candidate moves, right? That's the best way is you should have like 2 or 3 candidate moves, and then you kind of make a little multiple choice test, say, okay, option A, B, C or something, and then you whittle it down to your top 1 or 2 options. So what are your options that you guys are seeing here?
I'm seeing a potential bishop move. Contingent, of course, on where the knight moves afterward.
Maybe a bishop move. Okay, so you're looking at a threat then, right? Under the category of threats, you're saying, okay, maybe like bishop to d2, attacking the knight.
I like that idea initially.
Okay, but at least it's, I mean, let me just jot some stuff down. So I'll just jot down whatever moves, just kind of brainstorm it, whatever comes to mind. That's kind of like how I would do it in a game too. I would just say, okay, so I look at this move. I mean, one move might just pop out at the beginning, but I would still kind of at least have like 2 or 3 options. So we have bishop to d2. All right, let's see. How about our most forcing moves? I mean, well, we don't have any checks. That's the thing. So it's not going to be like our classic check, check, and mate. Well, also, okay, so you kind of go 2 different directions. One direction is you purely just look at forcing moves. That's kind of actually how a computer would probably do it. It would just do like through brute calculation, it just looks at all the options, looking at like hundreds of thousands of options or millions in some cases, and just figuring it out. But we can also look at it kind of more, abstractly and say, okay, what do you notice about the position? Well, you look for exposed king, you look for loose pieces, and pretty much we have all the requirements here. Well, the knight and rook are both loose. And the main thing is that this king is in a mating net. We caught him in a net. So that would actually kind of lead us in the right direction too. And then we would start, so that would whittle it down already. And then we start looking at moves to say, okay, how do we exploit that? How do we catch this king on f5? So, and there isn't a check immediately. So I think we're going to be in the threat category. What are some threats to set up a mate maybe? Oh, it's muted, yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
One thing I'm thinking of is rook to a6.
Yeah, and that's very tempting because you're setting up a mate where.
Setting up checkmate on rook f6.
Right, it's actually triangle in chess. Well, sometimes it's change, right? But triangle in chess is with the idea, you have all this like chess notation. So triangle would be with the idea of, rook f6 mate. Do a little hashtag for mate. So yeah, I'll just get that off the board now. So rook a6 looks good, and that's going to be hard to stop. There actually is, it looks like there actually is one move that our opponent can do, and that's when we'll start making calculation trees. Okay, so let's do maybe one more candidate move, and then we'll start actually breaking down the calculation tree and try to verify it before we move. I try to have a pretty high level of conviction before I actually go forward with it. So rook a6, bishop d2, anything else? Not really seeing any other way to set up a check.
Yeah, I think actually rook a6 is a good second move after bishop d2, because if you did rook a6 immediately, you'd actually have the knight, which would be able to take the pawn. However,
Yeah, I noticed that.
if you play bishop d2 and the knight has to move, then rook a6 is a great second move because it keeps the net in place and preserves the pawn, which would keep the king from getting out.
Right. So now we're getting into the question of move order. Okay, and I think we should start making the calculation tree. But it looks like we've pretty much narrowed it down to something along the lines of rook a6, maybe including bishop d2. So you're thinking of, okay, possibly a first. Well, we could look at both his first moves and see which one it looks like is going to lead to something. Okay, because it looks like, yeah, they have knight takes d5, which looks annoying, but who knows? We might still have something. So if we do, let's just look at that one, the most forcing immediately, the one that threatens mate. So we have, all right, so we have rook a6. And then I would just kind of branch off there any moves for our opponent. There might only be one move, which is knight takes d5.
Yeah, that would be the only move to prevent checkmate.
Looks like it. I mean, knight e4, but then we'll just take the knight. So yeah, that's the only other way really, because it's such a bad mating net that they found themselves in. Really strong mating net. So they really have, and are you guys, it sounds like you already have pretty good understanding of the fundamentals, like you read some books or watched videos and you already know about mating nets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about mating nets, but I do a lot of chess.com, so
probably intuitively you already know it, but basically you've taken away the flight squares from the king. He has no flight squares. You can essentially,
yeah,
we can make this like, we could kind of make like a red zone around him, right, or whatever color. But let's say we did this. So essentially he's stuck in there, right? He can't go anywhere, which means all we need is one effective check. We have him. So those are pretty straightforward tactics usually, but then it's just, okay, it's a free for all. You just like throw whatever you can at him and get a checkmate. Okay, so rook a6. All right, let's go to back to draw. There we go. Okay. No, knight takes d5. Yeah, it does stop the immediate. We should still entertain the idea though. Just see if there's anything we can do after knight takes d5. So envision that you've got your rook on a6 and knight on d5. We clearly can't go to f6 anymore. And the problem too is that he's eliminated part of our net. Right?
And it threatens the bishop.
And it looks right, exactly. So it's kind of ruining our plans, it looks like. Knight takes d5. I would still like kind of go down that rabbit hole, just see if there's anything there, but you know, it looks like we can always come back to it, but yeah, it's looking like that's spoiling our plans with the rook a6, knight takes d5. There's just not really a follow-up to that. I mean, you could do something like, for example, here, but he's, like I said, he's coming out of that, it looks like, of the mating net. Yeah, you just take. Yeah, you just take the bishop. He will just take it. So we're anticipating. So that's a really big part of it, though. Is just objectively seeing both sides, finding the best reactions to us, and that's going to help you a lot in general in chess. It might not be a tactic, but it might just be you're looking at some maneuvering that you guys can both do in some strategic situation maybe. But still, just the fact that you're considering best options for your opponent is a huge part of it, because then you're not going to overlook anything. Right? It's much less likely that you're going to be surprised. Okay, so let's go to our second candidate move. Now we have bishop. Yeah, that's the only way to attack the knight. Bishop d2. Oops. Okay, so we hit the knight. We threaten to win a piece. So then what happens?
They'll probably want to move the knight away.
They either have, yeah, they either move it or they defend it. If they do move it, and I think that was, whose idea was that, to first attack it and then bring it? Was that Patrick or Will?
That was Will.
Okay, yeah, you guys kind of both had parts of it, yeah. But that's the idea, right? So we chase it away. Then we come in with the rook. Okay. So if he moves the knight immediately, yeah, then it looks like the idea works, right?
The only problem is that the knight could simply move back to the b5 square, in which case you'd actually, if you did something like rook a6, then you'd have a move like king e5, which would prevent the mating net.
And then he's trying to get to d5 himself. Oh, that's really tricky. And there's no other way to attack the knight, though. Well, let's still take a look, though. So bishop d2. Let's say, I don't know, knight e2. Let's just see if we have something there. And then, if it looks like that line works, then we'll play,
if he
we'll
plays,
kind of play out some tougher options.
Yeah, if he plays knight e2, then you do rook a6. And the king, of course, has to get out, so he moves to e5. But then you can play rook e6 check, and you've suddenly forked the knight and the king. So it's a
we have a skew. We have a skewer, right?
We have a skewer there. But my guess is that if white is playing it smart, he'll simply return the knight to b5.
The knight coming back to which square?
The knight simply goes back to b5. Because then when rook a6, king e5, then suddenly you don't have the skewer, and in fact you could lose the d5 pawn if you check the king.
Okay, so you're saying, so right after bishop d2, he should do something. So let's make an arrow going to, if we play bishop d2, what do you think you should do right there? Just go to b5 right here.
Yeah, just go back to b5. And
clog it up, yeah. Interfering in that line. Yeah, like I said, these are not easy. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of options. We have to break it down. Okay, so that doesn't work either. We have to keep looking then. Well, it becomes kind of process elimination. We're like, okay, we've tried everything until we get to our solution. So bishop d2. Yeah, so I would say, so that I would make another branch then. The other option that he has, knight b5, and that really doesn't look too promising for us. Yeah, just envisioning that with the knight on b5. I'm just, and as you said, the king could start coming out. And the rook ace again. So you're saying, well, we should still just look at it. Always just go down the line just to make sure. So then you're saying if rook a6, and then you're saying king e5. And now there's no more. The point is you basically taken the problem for white out of that line, right? So you've done the work for them, but just knowing that if they assume, like Kasparov said, assume your opponent's going to make the best move. So yeah, if white goes knight e2, in that line they'll get skewered after the check. But if the knight goes to b5, there's nothing to do really. Oh, wait a second. What if we bring our bishop back to f4? That's kind of interesting. There is a little something to look at, right? So you go bishop to d2. He goes knight b5. Now let's just say at that point you come back to f4. Is there anything there that's worth looking at?
Unfortunately, it just leads to a drawn situation where he can just play knight c3 again.
But we know because we have something new, right? Oh, my bad. Oh, I was thinking of a rook a6 line. Yeah. So it's bishop d2, knight b5. No, or after maybe after rook a6. So first rook a6. Yeah, I mean rook a6 first, and then trying to make both of those things work. So rook a6. Yeah, but then we're getting king e5.
Yeah,
That's the
king
key.
e5 happens either way, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Trying
on
to get
b5 would prevent a check on d6.
Mhm.
Now, the interesting thing is, I'm looking at a possibility. This is just completely outside the picture, but where you can lure the white king far enough away that you can start moving up that h pawn, and
Well,
potentially.
this is an asset that you always have, the h pawn. Now they have that asset on the other side of the board. They have their own
They do.
a pawn.
But the thing is, when the knight moves to b5, if you start moving that h pawn, suddenly the rook has to move over. And if you have the king stuck on f5, let's say, and you capture on a4, then suddenly the pawn on the d side opens up. And if you then play, let's just hypothetically say rook b4 in a later move, that knight has to move again, in which case you'd have options when you play
Yeah.
bishop d2.
At least it looks like it's something it's kind of on the horizon. Something at least we could kind of put that in the back pocket, but we might be able to use that idea too. A lot of resources here. Something, yeah. I still feel like there's like I would try to insist on making this checkmate work because it's like we're so close. It was just spoiled by one. There was one move that spoiled it, which is the knight takes d5 move. So is there nothing there after rook? We were looking at rook a6 over here, right? And we just had knight takes d5, and there's really nothing there, huh? No, I think we have to go a little further. I think we do have to go a little. Now that it looks like we found, essentially what we've done is we would say this. We would call this a refutation. Refuted. It looks like at least at first glance, it looks like that's been refuted. Our opponent has found a rejoinder, right? So they've ended that line for us basically. It doesn't do anything. So rejected, right? So but after knight takes d5, so rook a. Let's eliminate this stuff. So after rook a6, knight takes d5. And see, a lot of it too is just the organization in your mind. As you can see, it gets tricky as you're like going between different lines, and yeah, it's challenging. But when you have a good method down, you do a lot of practice, over the board, then it becomes easier and easier. So rook a6, knight takes d5. Now, let's see, is there anything we can do here? I was looking at maybe attacking the knight, but again, he has this e4 square available. But is there any follow-up that we have that we can look at? The knight's a loose piece, though.
Yeah, so like I see something along the lines of you move the rook back to a5, right? The king will then instinctively go to e4 to protect, and you could go f5 check.
Exactly.
The king
Very
take
nice.
the pawn and then take the knight.
Very nice. So we have a mix of, so suddenly this is not 16. No, this is more like expert level, but we're basically blending ideas of a mating net. We've got the pin idea, and we've got a like a decoy. Essentially remove the defender, the king, from defending the knight on d5. So we're combining all those ideas. So and it's very easy to give up on it when we see knight takes d5. But when we come back, we're like, okay. So again, it's process elimination. We entertain the idea, say, okay, the other thing didn't work. Let's come back. And suddenly, like, there has to be something with that loose knight on d5. And you found it, I think. So it's going to be, we'll continue the line. Rook to a5. So that's a knight. Looks like that's an exclamation. That looks like a very strong move. When you come back, and as you said, there's only one move for the king to not lose the knight. We'll kind of come over here. So he has to go to king to e4. And William saw the finish. Do you guys see that with f5 check? And Andres, okay, I see it. Let me move it. See it right there. Okay. So you guys all kind of try to envision it in your mind first, because then over the board, like you can't make arrows, and you can't write it down. There's actually stories of people losing their game because they've taken notes. There's no note taking allowed under U.S. Chess Federation rules. So yeah, you have to do it all in your head. Just work on this. That's why puzzles are great, just to visualize things and get this forcing move order down. So are you guys all seeing it? So we're going
Yeah.
rook a6 has to go knight takes d5. Only move. Only move means square. Square means only move. So it has to go knight takes d5. Come back to a5 exclamation mark. Good move. Rook a5. King e4. Basically only move not to lose it. And then exclamation mark again. Excellent move. f5 check, plus for check. There's all your chess notation. You guys have probably seen that a bit online, right? You see the plus. Yeah. So f5 check. And either he runs or he takes again. Well, now he's just going to get taken. And then okay, we're up a bishop. And there you go. And then we'll get to your point, as William, I think you were talking about the H pawn, the strong H pawn we have. And that'll eventually be relevant in the end game after we have a winning position, right? To be able to finish it off. So you guys, any questions on that before we play it out? Or anything else you guys want to do? It looks pretty clear. But I would always do one final check just to be like, hold on, did I miss anything? You know, I have to be really meticulous and say, is there anything else my opponent can do? But here we pretty much figured it out. The knight takes d5 is it. So all right, rook a6. And that if it makes the move, that means that was correct. And now we're coming back again. I would still take another look real quick, just scan the board, make sure we're not seeing anything. There's nothing we missed, like some kind of checkmate that we missed. But there's just no other way to check the king, so we're going with this. And not here because king e. Actually, does that make a difference?
It wouldn't, because the knight would simply take the bishop and then the king gains a pawn.
Nice job. Exactly. When the knight takes the bishop, now it's taken away the e5 square, and it can even take on g5. So that bishop is essential to be anchored in there, controlling the dark squares. And we've almost got all the light squares, but that ends up being his weakness on the light squares is the fact that it doesn't lead to a mate, but it leads to removing the defender with a check, pick up the knight, game, and that's a winning. I mean, we still have some work to do, but yeah, it's just a bishop for a pawn. All right, nice job. So you can see these get pretty hard, don't they? Or maybe that was too easy for you guys. I don't know. But at first I was getting stumped for a second because I was like, wait, what is it then? But you just kind of have to look around and see, okay, if it doesn't work this way, it's got to be one. It's got to be one way or the other.
The only problem that I guess the only problem I have with this, and the reason I suggested bishop d2 first, is because usually in these situations, I don't like the idea of having my opponent with 3 pawns, especially if you did a move like king e6. Basically, the rook has to go to a5 in order to prevent that pawn from coming. Well, no, he'd go to e4 to prevent a capture of a pawn.
Right, simultaneously guarding his pawn.
Yeah, rook a5. But then, you know, I think you have options when you play something along the lines of d4. I don't know.
But the point is, you don't want to see. Yeah. You want to your instinct is to minimize counterplay, which is another. That's kind of what I'm getting at. It's one of the main things that differentiates players as you get higher, like toward the master level, is, and you'll see that as you were at the lower level, like starting to move up, like from 800s to 1,000 level and stuff. You see, like at that level, a lot of people lose because they're just not watching for their opponent's threats. Or how did Samuel said? I like the way Samuel put it last meeting. He said, just look both ways when you cross the road, right? Or in other words, our chess terminology, prophylaxis, a dose of prophylaxis, right? Take your preventative measures, right? To an ounce of prevention. So if you don't do that, you will often find yourself in trouble. But then it gets higher, it gets very high level stuff, right? To like notice the most nuanced things that your opponent can do. And the more you notice that, so really you just want to see it from both sides. Yeah. But that's part of when you make a good calculation tree, it takes into account their best options. So you get used to doing that. Okay, you guys ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so this is black to play also. All right. So just study the board for a little bit. Let's see what's going on. I just kind of look around, as I said, abstractly also. Kind of where's the pressure? Where are the loose pieces? Is the king exposed? Things like that. Just get a sense for where the pressure is. And then we'll start doing our candidate move search. Look for your options. Okay, what do you guys, let's just make some observations first. So we'll kind of work in the other, more of the human direction rather than the computer. The human direction is more like, let me get some understanding of the position, and then we'll start talking about the moves. So what are some observations you guys have?
There's a hanging D pawn
Hanging for which side?
for white.
This one right here?
Yeah, there's nothing defending it.
Right. All right. It's loose. Right. It's a loose, but it lacks defense. Yeah. If it's hanging, it's like you can take it right now. Right. When it's on, or
Okay.
on pre, I think from French, something like that. You can just take it immediately. But it's loose. So for example, yeah, there could be like a check and then take it later on. What else? Are there any other, in terms of, especially in tactics, where just the bread and butter of tactics would be exposed king, loose pieces fall off. So both kings are, what do you think? Kind of exposed, right?
Yeah. Both kings are in danger.
I noticed there might be like a fork with rook to b3.
Oh yeah, okay.
But
So you're getting to this kind of, oh yeah, that's part of it. Well, the bishop's a little loose, and it's also the way the pieces are arranged that you're noticing vulnerability, because they're both on the same line, and the rook's able to go there, anchored in by the knight, which is anchored in by the pawn. So I'd say black definitely has better coordination. Although the thing that would scare me is the queen. I'd be very concerned about the queen and the rook. But it's interesting. Then you have to really do some hard thinking about that, because it looks scary. But when you look at it objectively, are there actually any threats right now that white can do? That white can carry out? Obviously, there's a rook check, but once the king moves, what happens?
So basically, if we do a wrong move, it's made in two.
Yeah, or you can, or have to give up. Yeah, it would be. You have to give up your queen, and then you get mated with it. If the queen ended up on a H8, yes, you would have to go where? If the rook checked you. I mean, and again, it's our move, but just to understand the position and just know the capabilities of white's pieces. So if they're going to go here, then where are you going to have to go?
h7.
It would have to be either h7 or h6.
Right. Which one do you think is the correct? Those are the two candidate moves you'd have in response. And which one do you think is correct? Again, assuming let's just say we give white the move, so that way we know how much kind of free reign we have here, how critical the position is.
It would have to be h7.
Right, because we're guarding with our queen and our king. So essentially, you're keeping, as long as you keep the h8 square under control, you're good. And it's really important just to have that kind of concrete understanding of what are my opponent's abilities, and as well as my own. And so once you know that, you're like, okay, this is just a check. It looks scary, and it's very close to checkmate. But what it means is that I need my queen to guard h8, which would, and that it's very important though, because that'll lead you from going astray, which would be, because I'm tempted to go queen f3 check. It looks very tempting, but it's probably a blunder, because or at least leads to a draw, because suddenly they have a bunch of checks, either mate or perpetual check. So we don't want to give up. If we have a win, we have to be careful we don't give them perpetual. So we have to be so cautious that we don't give them perpetual check and let them get a draw here, or a quick mate. So I think as long as we stay on the side, so I'd be leaning then toward, Andres mentioned rook b3. So I'd already be looking at that and saying, okay, because at first when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, this looks scary. But I looked a few moves in, I'm like, all right, there's nothing, there's no follow-up, there's no real threat. It's more of a ghost threat. I'd call it a ghost threat of rook g8 check, but something you still need to be vigilant about, right? Okay, so let's say you go rook, that's a candidate move then. We'll put that down there. So let's make all our candidate moves here. So rook b3 would be a threat. And I already mentioned, queen f3 check would be a check. That looks like probably our only viable check, but as I mentioned, it might have some issues, because you kind of leave your king stranded there, unless you had like an immediate mate to follow up with queen f3 check. But do you guys see anything concrete after queen f3?
I do.
The mistake for white would be to go to h3, which would lead to an immediate checkmate. But the problem is, I think king g1 is his strongest option, because I was looking then at knight d3, but the problem after that is it's not a forced move, which means like a move like rook g8 check followed by queen e check would actually be a check It'd be very close to a checkmate for white.
Yeah, at the very least, I think they're getting a perpetual. But the point is, we might, if we need to calculate that, we will, but we'll save ourselves some work and just say, okay, we'd rather avoid that if possible, right?
Yeah.
Especially because, as you said, it's not that forcing, and their pieces are becoming like uncoordinated after queen f3, knight d3. Our king is stranded, our rook is like undefended on a3 and stuff. So my intuition would say just avoid that if possible. But again, just like the other line, like we didn't like it at first, but then it turned out to be right. So we'd kind of table that. So queen f3 check, it's still a move, but probably not. Rook b3 is very interesting. Anything else? We'll calculate that. Anything else before we calculate rook b3?
I guess like a candidate move would be like either knight a6 or knight d7 to attack the queen.
Yeah, those are all threats. So yeah, probably more likely knight d7, but I would still, I mean, look, they're both threats, so we should still put them there. Knight d7, knight d6. So I'll just say these are all our CMs, candidate master, or in this case, candidate moves. So we got 4 candidate moves. Anything else? Yeah, rook b3 is definitely, as Andre said, that definitely looks tempting once we look at it a little bit, because it looks like it just wins the bishop. So we just have to verify it though, and then we'll double check the other moves to see if there's anything there. But it looks like they're kind of one move threats. I'm not sure if they lead to anything. But again, you should just put them out there. So you kind of have your multiple choice test, a little quiz for yourself each move, and then you kind of just process of elimination basically, just like you're taking a quiz. Okay. So should we start with rook b3 then, since that seems the most viable?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've got rook, or make the calculation tree. And effectively, I mean, this is one way of doing it, but I would basically just be doing that in my head, saying, okay, if I go rook b3, you can do whatever works best for you, but this is just one method. So if I go rook b3, what are my opponent's reactions? Of course, we have the rook check. There's no way that they can guard both at the same time.
Probably. Yeah, so they have to move the queen out of the way.
Yeah, if they just move somewhere, like, oh, maybe they attack our queen, or they can toss in the rook check. But again, as we saw after, let's still look at it. Let's say they do the rook check. And then we simply go king h, we do the right way, we go king h7. I don't know, they can toss in, that's where it gets a little tricky actually, because they could toss in something like bishop takes g6 check as a desperado.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But
yeah,
unfortunately, you could have something. No, I see what you mean, because if you capture the queen, that's pretty bad. Right,
you can go astray there, and it exposes you on the 7th rank too. I think we're still good, but it's a desperado. White needs, like you're going to lose the piece anyway, so you just throw it at them and hope something happens, right? So bishop takes g6 check. So f takes. So I think we assessed that the correct response will be f takes g6, and now. So we're just up a piece, but is there we would still have to concretely visualize that position. Is there anything your opponent has?
At least when the bishop takes g6?
Yeah, after.
Yeah, so like rook g8, you have king e7, of course. Well, I mean, yeah, if king a7 is the best move, bishop takes. I would personally capture with the pawn. And then queen c7 check. Then you can successfully move to king h8 because you don't have the double threat on the h file anymore. And
we can take the rook is still on g8. We could take the rook though.
Yeah, the rook's still there.
We could just take it, right?
Oh, yeah, that is true. That is true.
So I think we could. If that's if queen. Oh, that would be the.
Yeah. I see what
that would be for white. If white, just to see if they have anything, I would definitely want to check it. If queen, let's say, I don't know, something like queen c7 check, then at least we know that we have king takes.
Mm-hmm.
K takes R, king takes rook. Okay. So they don't really, yeah, I would just check though, because that can be a spoiler, right? If you think you have this great combination, but you don't look at bishop takes pawn check, I mean, that's their most, just like you look at your most forcing moves, you have to look at theirs too. Because sometimes they get lucky and they have that resource, right? And then it spoils the whole combination. Yeah, fortunately you have that. Oh, you might even have king takes, but that kind of exposes your king. Yes, I think pawn takes would be fine. So rook b3. So if he does the check, or if they just move the queen immediately, like where can they move the queen? after rook. So if we go, let's make another branch. So let's just say queen moves really anywhere, c8, something like that.
Yeah, I think c8 would be their best option.
Let's say c8 looks reasonable. Yeah, just get a little closer. And okay, so our plan is to take, right? Rook takes bishop. So rook takes b1. And then I would still look at it, just kind of do like a final check, make sure there's nothing.
I don't know. I personally would not take the bishop actually, once you play rook b3, because then queen f3 is much more viable. When the king moves to
yes,
b1,
exactly.
then you capture the bishop, and then you have a forced checkmate.
But it's like Lasker said.
Yeah, you don't want to do that immediately.
Yeah, like Lasker said, when you see a good move, look for a better move. So rook takes b1. Okay, you win the bishop. We're still winning technically, but where the computer will give you like minus. It will say for white, it will say plus. For black, it was like the bar will go down to minus. So it'll be like -3 or something if you win the bishop. If you do queen f3, it's mate too. Yeah, so that's even better. So this is fine. That's like okay, but we also have. Now we finally do, so that's kind of a teaser move, the queen f3. So at first it doesn't work. It's the one that would throw you off. But if you do this first, you make sure that, so you have to do a lot of things. You got to make sure, look at this first, make sure rook g8 check doesn't amount to anything for white. And then once you're there and they move the queen, then we can finish it with actually a checkmate, which is nice. So maybe looks like the queen has to sacrifice herself for the rook. And that's okay. Then we have queen and knight against rook and bishop. So we're up a few points. It's a pretty easy win. Oh, and speaking of passed pawns, that's a nice asset. We can just push that pawn down or get a checkmate with our queen and knight probably pretty quickly. Okay, so the rook b3 line looks good. Then we looked at I guess I would call it defensive calculation. We looked at it. There's a lot of defense involved here because white has an attack. But it's the kind of thing where like this could happen in a game where your opponent had this strong attack. And you have to be very objective about it. Look at your counter tactics, make sure their stuff doesn't work. And then you end up, so let's say some 1800 player, 1600 player, they thought they had a win, but it turns out you've done a lot of calculation and you realize, okay, actually I'm at least winning a piece in this line. Okay, so are we going with this or anything else you guys want to look at?
I think we're good.
All right, let's do it. So check, not check, we're doing our move first, rook b3. That's correct. You have to do their check as expected, and do not go h6.
Yeah, go rook
h8. So
king h7. Yeah.
Go king h7, keeping our control. So we still have two pieces controlling h8. If they go to h8, they only have one guarding it, so we'd overwhelm that.
Yeah.
Aha! It's exactly as we calculated. They try this. Okay, let's take it. Oh, actually, we can't take, as you mentioned, because we forgot about the rook on g8. We can't take with the king either because the rook guards it. So we're obviously not going to move the king to h6 and get attacked.
I'm going to say pawn captures.
We're taking back with the pawn. And again, any checks, they still don't work. Rook check, any rook check, you take it. Queen check, you take the rook with the king. And that's all you need to do. But as you see, like they make you play it through a bit, right? So I kind of like these. And these are easy. I think the thing about the hard ones is that they'll make you play like 6-7 moves deep, and you have to. So you're not just making one good move; you have to make like 6 precise moves. Mm-hmm. But still, this is pretty challenging. All right, you guys want? What time is you guys are doing a tournament tonight, or practice games? I would. Anthony mentioned something about that in the email, I think.
I'm unsure. I can text him really quick and find out.
Just see like about when, or I think it'll be like everyone's coming together. But yeah, let's just do this for a little while, and then whenever you guys are ready, you could just join with them. So you guys like these? You want to do a few more of these?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, these are pretty fun. And again, this is just easy. I mean, do you want to try medium, or I think these are already pretty good. Does it say the tactics level? Let me see. Difficulty 4 common. They just have comments. But I don't see what the rating. It should come with a rating. Oh, here. Performance 2094. But it doesn't. Okay, so it's saying 2094 is the performance, but okay. So I mean, these have got to be. Yeah, I think this is just like higher level stuff because they're easy is like expert level. Their hard is like super grandmaster level. So yeah, but you guys can handle this stuff. So I think it's a good site. But it really goes for any puzzle solving site. Or there's a good book called Combination Challenge. If you guys like to work, old school out of the book, I've done that too. You have like 9 puzzles per page, so you could just say, okay, I'm on the ride, in the train, or just have a little bit of time. If you can knock out all 9 at once, or do like 9 a day or something, or each week, or whatever you can do. This Combination Challenge by Hall, I think. So that's good to have on hand too. And then of course there's apps and stuff. Okay. Yeah, CT Art is another one. CT Art, A-R-T. That's another good one I've heard. Okay, Queen E7. This time's white to move. So just take a little bit of time and scan the board, kind of see what's going on. So probably a couple of immediate observations in terms of safety. What are you guys noticing so far?
Our king's pretty secure, but the opposing king is in like the middle of the board of that
Exactly,
end,
Patrick.
which is pretty vulnerable. It's very vulnerable.
Yeah, Patrick, exactly. So this is, I mean, sometimes they try and get away with it, like in a Sicilian, there's a Sicilian position where the pawn is probably out of the Sicilian when this happened. And then you end up trading on F6, and the king tries to kind of stay there behind this kind of cocoon right here of pawns. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's actually a really cool Karpov game where he sacrifices some pawns, but he's able to just kind of X-ray through everything. And so that's probably the case here. You just have so much activity, right? The white pieces are very active. They're all developed. The white king, as you said, the white king is safe. And it's like there's no obvious way to reach the black king in this position, but it's just the notion that you should probably castle your king, particularly if there are open lines. If it's a locked up game, if the pawns are locked up like in a French defense, you can often get away with it. Just some strategic ideas you can use too. But this is a pretty open game. There's no central pawns that are locked up. The only central pawns is really the e pawn. That's the only thing stopping us from reaching the queen and the king. So yeah, definitely open game, exposed king, and bishop. Well, the queen is in front of the king also, which I would note. So given the fact that the rook is X-raying here, there could be some tactics on the e file that I would look out for. And also this bishop, the bishop could be attacked pretty easily, and there's pressure here and pressure here, pressure all over the place. Now the question is, let's start looking at some concrete moves.
The immediate option is knight to e4. And what that would do is it's not just that it threatens the bishop, it threatens the f6 square. And the f6 square isn't easily guarded. If bishop d4, then the rook simply captures. That's a free piece. So basically, and then the king can't castle queenside because the rook is blocking it. And if the king decides to castle queenside, well, you get a free pawn out of it. So the most likely option that black will play is
knight e4. Okay.
Yeah, knight e4. And then black's only response really that I see is f5. Now, I was examining the possibility of a queen takes f5, and then on a capture, you use your knight and capture the bishop and put the king in a pin. But at the same time, I think you're actually losing opponent material by doing that. So I'm trying to see.
Yeah,
I
think
but it's something you should
aspect,
at least entertain the idea. It's definitely interesting to look, because sometimes that could work. But given that we only have 4 pieces, there's only then we'll be left with nothing at the end, right? But we don't have enough resources possibly. But it's still something that we should look at the line and see if it works. And Patrick, what were you saying?
I was going to agree. I think if like a response of f5 and like queen taking f5, I think in the end we'd still end up losing material.
Okay. So maybe at f5, there might be something else after that, but we should, we'll look at that in a bit. So that would be our threat category, like kind of third category move. There's only one check, which I don't think we should look at it and kind of get a sense of whether we should take it seriously. Again, we just don't. You can kind of sense, like, if we had more pieces aiming at the king, okay, we might look at this move, like if the bishop couldn't take back or something. But this is literally our only check right now, right? And that doesn't work, does it? We just don't have the resources to make that work, so we don't need to go there. So we're not looking at checks. We're either what about we're looking at a threat. Let's look at some captures. Looks like we have like 4 captures to look at. Any of those viable?
Knight takes c4 would mean a free pawn.
That's kind of along the lines of knight e4, also another activation move of the knight. So both of those we need to look at. And there's another capture. I think queen, again, along the lines of queen c6, queen take f6. I don't think we can sack our queen just yet. But what about, there's another sacrifice, excuse me, that we should look at.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting move. Like, this is outside the realm, but if you did something along the lines of rook takes e6, right? You just simply capture with the pawn. You'd have the queen h6. You have the queen h5 check, but that doesn't really amount to much if the king moves to f8, because then the bishop is still being protected, and really you don't have that freedom of movement.
Yeah, again, it seems like the assessment is kind of that we need to include our knight. Our knight is going to make this work somehow. But yeah, but you can do a kind of preliminary analysis of it. But the key is now we just have some moves out there that we can still look at it. But I think you're probably right that it's not enough yet. But you never know. It might. If the other ones don't work, we can maybe try to make it work. Okay, so rook takes e6. Anything else that we should look at? Any other? Maybe some other. I mean, there's a lot of queen moves available. There might be some that create threats. We should look at that. I mean, there's like queen h5. Queen h5 is kind of a threatening move. It's not really immediate. It looks at the bishop. It just looks at things, but yeah, it's not really. That might be a move that you know, we'll look at the other ones and see if they're concrete. But if we don't find anything, then that's where we get to. That's a little bit more in the quiet move category. It's not really direct threat, but who knows? It creates a pin and stuff, as you mentioned. It's more like the kind of move you would do after the line's exposed. But still, I would look at that later maybe, but we don't need to note that. So knight e4, knight c4, rook takes e6. No, maybe a rook lift. Rook e4. Again, not very forcing.
Yeah, not forcing. I think knight e4.
Okay, let's examine that. So let's examine that. So knight e4, and let's kind of branch off to the right here, I guess. So what would black do in reply to that?
f5.
Okay, you're saying f5. And now potentially taking the bishop. And that would pull the queen away. So is that the move you want to go with, William? The knight takes c5, or anything else there?
Well, I don't exactly see a capture on e5.
Okay, I'm saying knight takes c5, the c5 bishop.
Oh, knight takes. See the nice thing is that if you were to take the c5 bishop, you would be able to capture on f7. The only problem is that then the king can castle and that rook is being guarded. So although you've lost material, I feel as if you don't gain as much as you could.
Well, the other thing is that given, okay, I'll just make some arrows in terms of where the pressure is. So, okay, so if you just look at where we're looking here, we're looking at this and this. And of course, we have our X-ray on the E file, and we have our knight jumps. So there's kind of a lot of intersection there. Now the B7 pawn looks relevant to me. So I'd mark those. Let's mark some targets. Right? Think of it in terms of target awareness. That's a target. That's a target. The bishop's a target. The E6 pawn's a target. Obviously, the king's a target, right? But so those are all kind of targets. So just if you're able to lure the queen away, it may not even be that nothing. It may not be anything fancy here. It may be as simple as just taking the B7 pawn and hitting the rook and beginning to invade. And that might give you options like queen d7 check or something else. But that's just an important point, that the b7 pawn might fall in some cases, and the rook is loose. So, and what are we at right now? I think we're down a pawn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Technically, we're down 2 pawns actually. We're already down 2. I mean, it's a doubled pawn, but it's still these are doubled pawns. But we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versus. So we're down 2 pawns. So basically, white sacrificed for this huge initiative, a lot of pressure. Okay, so knight e4, f5. Okay, so we talked about knight takes c5. Was there another move you said you wanted to do that instead of knight takes c5? Because we could definitely take on c5, then take on b7. That's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah. It's worth looking at, but the thing is, I'm very confident that the king can simply castle.
Right, and it's like, okay, he's down. He's down a
He's at
pawn. I mean, he's not. I mean, he's already up a pawn, so he can afford to cough up a pawn or two and still survive, if we don't have a checkmate or something concrete.
mhm.
Okay, so what? So you're saying that you don't like the line then, or after f5, or what do you want to do after f5?
It's interesting. Hmm.
Well, and okay, yeah, and this is more, yeah, it's a little more abstract. But when he does castle, I mean, the king is always a little bit exposed because of the G file. Like if we had something really concrete, like a rook lift, rook swings over and checks him, but there's not. If the queen's on b7 anyway, there's not going to be a checkmate there. But there's always like long term, again, kind of like we're talking about the passed pawn. There's long term potential here if he castles kingside against the open king. But that doesn't always. Sometimes he could play king h8 and the rook can come to g8 and counterattack and he's fine, so it's kind of, it's not necessarily concrete unless we have our queen joining our rook in there. Okay, so he has f5. Okay, well, what about the knight takes e5 and then rook takes e6 line? Let's just take a quick look at that.
Yeah, the merits of that would be, of course, well, maybe you can go move something with your queen. The only issue is that when you capture on e6 takes, if you try queen h5, the queen is on the c5 square. That's a free queen, so you can't exactly do that. And if you do decide to take on b7, right, you do have the d file, which is open. So the king might castle, and you could play a move like rook d7, and
True.
you've placed the king in a very awkward scenario.
Yeah.
Actually, hold on. I actually really like that idea. No, because
but his rook's already on f8 guarding f7, so where's the target?
Well, so the idea is that when the king castles, well, like, okay, so you capture, right, f5, capture on c5, queen captures on c5, right, rook takes e6, the pawn, I assume the pawn will capture. If the king moves to f8, I mean, you make the line kind of weak when you capture.
Oh, I see what you're saying. After, in the rook takes
e6. Yeah. So then
after rook takes e6.
So then captures, but so then the queen captures on b7. The only issue I find is that suddenly rook a7 looks really powerful.
But then you might be able to win the rook back through a skewer. You might get the rook back, queen b8 check. So let's make the arrows then. It's getting kind of long.
No,
I'll make the arrows so we can all see it.
Yeah,
so we're looking at this but there's definitely something. There's something here possibly. It's very interesting. So knight e4. Now we're just threatening to simply win a pawn. Also.
Yeah.
So you probably have to
f5.
play.
Yeah,
so
f5
take.
Capture.
Now we're looking at was it the immediate rook takes e6?
Yeah, let's try rook takes e6. Pawn captures is the I think the obvious thing that black would do. And then queen takes.
Now that he's moved, and I said, where's it? Now that he's moved, you have some 7th rank tactics, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if he does castle.
If he does castle, then you can move the rook up to d7.
And the interesting thing is that there's no back. We almost have a back rank made against ourselves, but the queen can't quite get there yet.
They can't get there.
The c pawn's in the way.
Yeah, the only issue I find is that well, actually no, that's actually the solution, because if rook a7, then you can simply proceed as is with the checking. You can continue the checking, and then you can maybe get a free pawn out of it.
Well, you would. I mean, if you can get your rook back and you've exposed the king that much, it's probably good for us.
Yeah.
And then once you take h8, you're threatening to take h7 and stuff. Yeah, that's okay. So this is okay. So suddenly it rises up. We don't know for sure yet. We'd still have to verify it. I would still look at a couple other things, but this is definitely something that, and we'd have to verify the move order and stuff. But I would definitely put this up here as a top choice. So knight e4 looks really strong, with the idea of knight takes e5, and then either queen takes b7 first or rook takes e6 check first. We'd have to determine that. Probably rook takes e6 is more.
Rook takes e6, yeah, because then when you move the rook and you capture the h7 pawn at the very end of it, you would be up. You'd be up. I think 2 pawns by the end of this.
He actually does have another move I was looking at as a countermeasure for black here. After queen takes b7, he actually has queen a7 as well. which seems to hold the fort a little bit better than rook a6, because rook a7 abandons the back rank.
That's true.
But then you have queen c6 check, it looks like. It's very murky. Yeah, because you've already committed to sacrificing your rook, though. So it's got to work. Something's got to be. You need something good if that's going to happen. But you queen c6 check, then he moves his king over. King e7, let's say, stopping rook d7. So if he goes king e7, he still has coverage on his 2 protectors on d7.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see that.
Or just to make sure everyone's got it too. But yeah, you're seeing a lot. You're calculating a lot. Well, that probably helped you win. You got the highest score in the tournament, looks like, right? So nice. Did you win all your games or?
Yeah, I did.
Nice. So yeah, I just want to make sure everyone else, you guys all see it too? Or you have any questions, or is everyone on the same page?
That looks good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very abstract line, but and we still are not 100% sure yet, because this idea of either rook a7 or queen a7 seems to be some defense. But the key is, like, this is the kind of position where, regardless of whether it's a puzzle or not, I would try and get something out of this, right? Well, we've already sacrificed 2 pawns.
Oh, actually, I have an idea. When the queen plays to a7 and you do queen c6 check, when the king moves to f8, actually a really strong move would be moving the rook up to d7, which would threaten the queen on a7. So the queen is forced to move to a8, and then when you play rook d6 check, you actually
the rook's on a8. The rook's still on a8, right?
Yeah,
the rook's on a7. The rook's on a8.
Yeah,
but I'm saying king e7 after queen check. King goes to e7.
Oh, the king goes to e7. Okay.
Yeah. But if f8, okay, saying if f8, then rook d7.
Well, no, if the king moves to e7, then it's queen d6 checkmate. Because the queen is on a7. Yeah, king e7 is a big blunder. You'd have queen d6 checkmate. So rook f8.
Hold on. Does he have king back to e8? Queen d6. Here, the king can run back to e8 because he still has the e6 pawn there. So we have a rook on. So let's envision it. We have a rook on d1, a queen on d6, a king on e7. The queen's over here. Queen shifted over to a7, rook on a8. So it looks like, yeah, for only a move. Oh, actually, if the pawn were there, he would have a couple moves. He'd have e8 and f7. So it's not checkmate yet, right?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking, like, play all the moves out. The queen captures on, d7, and you have You have queen a7, as you put it. Then when you play queen c6 check, right? The king is on e8 still, which means if he moves to e7, it's a checkmate queen d6. But if
queen d6, then he goes king e8, right? Oh, you're saying it'll lead to.
Oh yeah. I see what you mean now. No, I see.
So I think, but probably his best move is actually king to, because now that envisioning, and that's the tricky thing is, like, when we're looking at it quickly right now, just kind of throwing things out, but when you're looking at this over the board, it's like making sure that you have exactly where everything is in your mind, because this F pawn has become, if we take on e6, the F pawn has been eliminated. Well, now it's moved to e6. So then they have king f7.
Actually, when the king moves back to e8, suddenly you can do a queen takes e6 check.
Yeah, exactly. We do have that, though. We do have that.
And then when the queen moves back to e7 to protect the king, you could potentially fork the king again.
Right, you go back
by moving to c6, and then you capture the rook.
So maybe so it's not a checkmate, but there might be.
But you could actually then, after you take that rook, skewer the other rook on the other side.
Right. So there might still be, So just because it's not checkmate doesn't mean it's not good.
Exactly. I think that's actually the best play. Yeah.
Wow. So this is this is a really, I don't know why this is under easy. I mean, I don't know by whose standard this is considered easy, because it's the kind of thing where you really have to kind of pierce the fog of war, because you have it's very, very murky situation. Yeah. And you have to really x-ray through everything.
Yeah. So let's go with knight e4 first.
Okay, so knight e4. Okay, but I would always verify, because that's how you could get things wrong. Sometimes you overlook some move, and you let's just verify first. So let's see, is there anything, I would, like Lasker said, when you say a good move, look for a better move. But it looks like we can at least start with that and see where things go, and we can always adjust our calculations depending on what they do. But at least we have a really good idea that it looks like something's happening. But is there anything else, guys, that we can do? We should quickly look at, okay, so rook takes e6 immediately doesn't work, right? We need the preliminary knight e4 to set things up. And knight takes c4 just doesn't create as many threats, does it?
It doesn't.
That just doesn't. There's no threat. Yeah. The nice thing about this is, like, hey, at the very least, we're gonna Well, again, it's the ideas of f6, but it's also the ideas of removing the queen from its defense of e6 and b7. So it enables things to happen after that. Okay, so let's go with it. Do you guys want to go with it? Are there any other opinions? Okay, let's try it out. That's correct. Okay, first thing's correct. Okay, now let's verify again. Well, there's really nowhere else to go.
Capture on the
It's not
c5.
possible. So are we taking c5?
Mhm.
Oh, hold on. But queen takes f5. Again, we probably don't have the resources to make. That would be cool.
Yeah. It's
Well,
cool.
for example, there's also ideas like takes. In some lines, you have things like knight f6 check, like takes, but there's no, if you had like a rook down or something, but there's
But
just,
unfortunately, there's a rook on the other side. Yeah.
you can get the queen back, but then you lose your rook. And
Yeah.
there's no justification to that. You're not going to get a checkmate then. So there's no checkmate here that I'm seeing. Knight d6, bishop takes it. Okay, so we're going
Yeah.
with knight takes c5.
Mhm.
Oops. Nope, it wasn't knight takes c5. Was it? Wait, is this oh, okay, let me take away the solution here. Is there a way I can block that? Hold on.
Yeah.
Just don't look, wait, don't look on the right so we can try to fix this. Okay,
Mhm.
okay, I don't know what's, okay. Yeah, just try not to look on the right. Or can we retry?
Yeah. I have the video camera up, so I can't see anything.
Okay, yeah, don't look on the right.
Yeah.
So just to challenge yourselves.
Is
So,
there a retry
so
button
this is a good lesson though. So we were looking at our main line, but then it turns out once he moved, we should have, we did so much analysis. It's been 20 minutes on this one move, right? We've done so much analysis, we just wanted to do it. But it turns out we should reassess it right here and say, okay, is there another move? Did you guys see what it is? Think about what's the weakness of f5, how it makes your opponent more vulnerable.
Mhm.
Doing queen c3 attacks the rook that's now opened up.
Right. It's a free attack on the rook, so they can't take the knight anymore. They don't have time to take the knight yet, and also it opens up this knight f6 check idea. So actually, you do get to.
Oh goodness.
Well, hold on. Let's see. Oh, and then we're getting to. So the point is, we want to get. We had all the. You had all the right ideas of getting to rook d7. This is just going to be the easiest way. So
Mhm.
queen c3. Well, rook g8 doesn't work because you have a knight fork on f6. Rook f8 is almost a mate. They're in a mating net, actually. See, they create a mating net if they go to f8, hem the king in. Knight f6 check means the queen has to give herself up, right? After rook f8, knight f6 check would win. Let's make the arrow on that. So it's okay. So let's kind of reevaluate things right here. So we have queen c3. So rook g8 gets forked. They can't. And the nice thing is we have the rook here. You can't castle through check, right? So the king is stuck. Okay, let's say, well, okay, a viable move might be like king f8. No, they can't. They can't do anything. They have to move the rook.
Yeah. And
Okay,
if they
what
move the
about
rook,
f6?
that's just.
It looks ugly. It definitely looks ugly.
Well, the knight captures. If the king goes to f7, you have rook d7, which forks the queen. And if the king moves back to f8, then you have a really nice move in knight d7, which would then fork the rook and potentially, yeah, it would fork the rook.
Oh, you mean knight d7 hitting the king and the bishop. Well, let's see. So queen c3, f6. You're saying knight takes f6 first, right? Knight takes. Yeah, king. If the king goes here, then we get our rook down to d7, and that would be pinning. The knight would guard the rook, and it would be pinning the queen to the rook, or rather to the king. So that would mean that doesn't work. So it would have to go to f8. And then you're saying knight to d7 check?
That's what I'm instinctively thinking. It still might be a better idea to move that rook up to d7. Because
I like the infiltration.
Because that actually means that the queen can't capture the knight. The queen is actually stuck. And yeah, then you actually, yeah.
Oh,
so
it traps.
scratch the idea of knight to d7. I actually think rook d7 is a smarter play then.
Yeah, because unless we're able to pick up the rook, but the king will be on g8 after you check on, and then the queen still guards this, the king guards h8. It's kind of maybe holding on some line. But again, that's where if we had like a rook lifted, so let's say there were a rook available to swing over, that changes our calculations. But we're not quite there yet. So this is more just immediate, just things that happen through the center. And it's interesting too that people think, oh, I have to get to the king through the, directly through the king side or something. But you could just blast through the center and reach the king. It's quite a cool line. I really like this puzzle. It's a lot. It's really good for visualization. Okay, so queen c3.
Yeah.
Anything else? I mean, clearly it's a good move because it attacks. They can't take the knight, and you get knight f6. There's just no good response really. And again, you just okay, hold on. So let's look at queen f8. That's like maybe the only other option. That move guards the rook.
Then you simply play knight f6 check. The king is forced to move to e7. Rook d7 checkmate.
Right. You guys see that as a check here because the queen's clogging it up now. So it's kind of a similar idea where the rook created the mating net, but the king does have one escape square, but no longer here because then you just go to d7. The queen covers the knight, and again, this beautiful kind of coordination that you want to get, kind of a harmony in your chess game, right? Where all your pieces are working toward a common goal, right? So they're like a team or a symphony or something, right? So queen c3 guards the knight guards the rook attacks the king, and the knight covers e8 too, so you can't go back, can't go anywhere. All right, so let's play it. Let's finish it out. Finish this one off. What did they do? Queen c3. Oh, it's because it's just showing us the solution. Then we just win the rook. Well, you actually win. Well,
That's right.
Well, we're just picking up. Well, they do have a queen f8 still. Well, I think it's just at least you're picking up an exchange.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
you win the rook. I mean, you could at least win the end game. You get the rook, they get your knight.
Mm-hmm.
Queen goes back. I mean, you could even take the h pawn now and just keep attacking them.
No.
Or is there something else?
Hold on. No, they're the bishop there. I was thinking, hold on, wait a minute. Rook d8 check. But no, that's a horrible idea.
Oh, and the rook. But yeah, that's a tactic you can do if there were nothing defending it.
Yeah.
This check idea. So after queen back. Yeah, I mean it's then there's nothing. Well, then we're getting away from.
And honestly, if you're thinking about the end game, just capture the queen and then take on e4.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would force the opponent to play something like b5, and you're winning the position.
It's going to take a little. It's going to take a little bit of technique, but well, the other thing is I'm tempted to take this too because and again this has become far less forcing. Now it's a matter of endgame technique, but this is interesting because it's touching on so many other topics. But if you were to take this, now you have a passed h pawn. Get that passed pawn is a really valuable asset if you can have an outside passed pawn
that's true.
Because you can use it. For example, what you could do, a way you could win these rook against bishop exchange of endgames. A lot of times, what you do is you use the rook to get the pawns you need, and then you sacrifice your rook for the bishop, and then you win the king and pawn endgame. Because the outside passed pawn is a decoy. You let this decoy, just let it sit on h4 or whatever. King has to guard it. And then you go and plunder all the other pawns with your king.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really nice one. So it starts. So you found, but you just kind of sensed, William, you sensed that 94 was correct, and it was. And then we were trying to make this cool stuff work with queen takes b7, but it turned out to be much more mundane than that. It was just attack the rook. But it's the interesting thing is that we were focusing on one diagonal, but then when they play f5, it just shows you how kind of malleable the game is. You have to quickly transition from one thing to be quick on your toes, and second they play f5 and be willing to readjust your plans because we got fixated on this, but suddenly it's like, wait, now that it's here, well, ideally we would see it ahead of time, but now that it's here, we have to look at it again and say, wait, well, we can make this work. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. Okay, so I think you guys are gonna play some games, right? I guess this is definitely a good warm up. We got some good puzzles in. Did you guys want to play some games now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool. Nice job, guys. You guys have any questions about the kind of process of looking for forcing moves, that kind of hierarchy, and then making calculation trees? Does that make sense to you? I mean, if you haven't heard it before that exact way, it's probably something you're already doing intuitively, right? It's just I think it's a good method. So think like a grandmaster. Kotop's think like a grandmaster. He kind of goes into that method of calculation trees. All right. So what you guys have the link to? Are you guys just going to join the other group or the main group, or how does it work? I think Anthony sent out.
Did Anthony send out a link? I didn't see anything.
It's probably in that. I'll stop the screen share. All right, nice job, guys. Yeah, this it's definitely. I mean, that's you got to know your tactics, and then of course, but beyond that, we'll work on positional chess. Make sure your end games are strong. Make sure your strategy is strong. Get your openings down, but beyond openings, like if your tactics are strong, your end games are strong, you have a good understanding of positional chess in terms of like getting or understanding the imbalances of the game, like working like the more nuanced parts of the game, like I'm working for an outpost for my knight or something, and working for control of a file, or all these kind of small wins that add up to a big advantage that you can then convert to a win. Then the opening doesn't matter as much, but you can study it. I can show you guys how to study the lines you like, and ideally look at grandmaster games, because when you study the line, you learn how to look up grandmaster games, and then you'll learn all the planning that they just watch what they do. You can pick up all these ideas from a given opening system. You'll see the types of pawn structures that arise and the types of plans. So we can get into that. You guys let me know what you want to work on. Just make sure your own system is, just have your own opening that you like for white and for black. Beyond that, we'll work on positional chess and strategy and end games, and just make sure your tactics keep working on your tactics too. So cool. So was there a link in there?
I did not see any link.
There was like that link tree thing that has multiple links, and one of them, I think one of them is for the broader meetings.
Oh, like the chess nights?
Yeah, is it a chess night?
No, that's on Thursday.
That's on Thursday, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was something about, or maybe it was like the message included something about the chess night. But there's just
I think there's...
you guys can just play. We have 4 of us, right? Yeah. So you guys can. We can just get a couple games going. You guys want to play?
Do you happen to have a chess.com account?
I have chess.com. Yeah,
Awesome.
chess or chess.com. Yeah, you guys we're using chess.com, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have chess.com.
Okay, so do you guys want to do? Or I guess you want to play William to play me, since I guess it'll be maybe closer strength. Okay, and then what are your guys' ratings around? Do you guys have established ratings already?
Well, I guess my question is, what time control do you like to play with?
For practice, we do like maybe 10-minute games or something like that.
I do 10-minute no increment, and my rating's around 2,100.
Okay, solid. Well, that's for regular is like 2,200 for USCF, but you're pretty close to me in terms of the online one. So let's see. So it'll be a good match. And then Patrick and Andres, what are you guys ratings around?
I mean, I don't have an official rating, and I don't do like any of the I don't do a whole lot of rapid stuff on chess.com, but I think it's around 1,300. Okay,
solid. And it'll be as you do more rate. I mean, it'll get established. It's kind of when it's provisional, it's all over the place, until you establish it. And Andres, where is yours?
I also don't have an official rating, and I don't use chess.com very much. I don't know what.
Okay, well, you guys will play more this semester. So you must have a lot of experience then, William, if you played like in your state tournament.
Well, yes. So like I used to have a USCF rating. It was around 1,600 3 years ago. But then when my family and I started moving around a lot, so I transitioned to playing online. So my USCF rating probably is not reflective of where I am now.
Yeah, right.
It should be higher later. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think that was great. You guys did an awesome job with solving the tactics, and as you can see, it's a really good resource, right? But I think I'd recommend you could do it for free if you just sign up for a free account on Chess Tempo, and it'll give you 2 end games a day also. So it's a good one. All right, so let's go. So you guys know how to challenge each other Are we gonna keep? I guess we'll just keep the stream going.
Yeah, I guess that's good.
Okay, we'll just challenge each other.
One of us could like share screen and.
What's that?
One of us could like share the screen and have one of the games up.
Yeah, I think we can both share screens. I think you can have two screens at once, right? So you could you could look at the other one too.
Let's see.
On chess.com.
So I'm not sure how to challenge Andre since I don't know his username.
Oh, do you guys want to message? You want to message him, Andres, with your username?
Yeah, sure. But I guess I need your username.
Oh yeah, I'll post mine in the chat.
Yeah, I'll do that too.
And you do it through, I'll just post mine also. The fork from Spanish. Okay. All right, so Yeah, or I could just add you, and then we don't have to go through the club. We'll just, yeah, and then we'll just go on the library. Let me just check something real quick before I start.
Let's see. So, Will, I think I found yours. Was your most recent game against Odysseus X?
Let me see. Yes, it was. And
Okay.
I lost that one. It looks like. Dang.
Hey, Patrick,
Alright,
I think
so-
I sent you the challenge.
All right. I send you a
Um,
request, Will.
And I'm sending you a friend request. Yeah, I'll send you guys, or just doing a new game, but we'll all end up getting connected through there. Okay, so 10-minute flat. I guess we'll do unrated, right? Yeah, unless you guys do rated if you want, but I guess we'll do rated, unrated just for.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to challenge people.
What's that?
I'm not exactly sure how to challenge people, so you might have to.
I
There
just
we go.
yeah.
Awesome.
Now I'm in live. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah, good luck.
All right. I've been messing around with B6 a lot, but I'm sure do the car conjure. It's a solid one. And are you guys screen sharing?
I can do that right. I can do that right now.
Okay.
Andres, I haven't received an invite yet.
I'll send you another one. It says I sent you. I don't know.
Okay.
So we had an exchange. It's kind of resembling the panel. Yeah, it's kind of resembling more like more of a D4 opening. It's interesting how the Caro-Kann can transition.
Yeah, it morphs pretty well.
Yeah.
Because you're not in live chess.
Oh, you sent it in live chess. Okay. That might be it.
Oh. I don't know how else to. I mentioned I haven't used chess.com in a while. And when I looked at my profile, it's all just bullet chess games and they're all losses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
but
you
very,
YK?
very
Yeah,
Oh,
you
the
get the-
backwards ducky?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
I cannot play bullet for the life of me.
Me neither, but I try.
I'm thinking I'm trying something a little funky here. I'm
Go
not
for
sure if it works exactly in this line, but let's see where this will be interesting. Let's see where it goes.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
You've seen this kind of thing?
I haven't. This is actually kind of new.
Yeah, I mean, it puts pressure on your C-pawn, but it's interesting, right? I think it's usually without the F.
Oh no, I feel pretty confident in that move.
That seems solid, yeah. Yeah, this is just this is actually the structure comes up a lot in these kinds of openings.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only way to get my bishop out now. And let's see, is the other game, you guys are screen sharing it or no?
I tried to screen share, but then it said that it would cancel the other screen sharing.
Oh, you must not have enabled multiple screen sharing. Okay, putting some pressure on the pin piece. Yeah, I think I probably should have even gone bishop g4 earlier instead of g6.
I was thinking you play bishop g4.
Yeah, I was thinking about it to activate the bishop. Probably was better. Let's see how to deal with this. Now it'll probably just end up having to go back to d7. Yeah, I think it has to go back.
I don't know. I think I want to play a funky move of my own.
Okay, yeah, it'll balance it out. Well, that's pretty. Oh, I see. Because you're like giving me the pawn. Okay. Let's see where that goes. Yeah, now it's just going to come down to a somewhat concrete calculation. Let's see. Or just in a game like this with 6 minutes, more like intuition. But I definitely want to take on d4. Okay, let's wait a second. I'm sure there's no crazy queen sacrifices or something. I'm looking at that now. Yeah, not sacking your queen. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, maybe it doesn't work, but let's just go. Let's see what you got in mind. Wait. Let's just
see.
Let's just go for it.
The nice thing about 10 minutes is that like you're forced to be quicker in how you think, but then you can strategically plan out like taking a minute of thinking. Like
yeah, exactly. Whereas
like
this 3-minute game, it's kind of hard to do.
It's really hard to do. Like I think 10 minutes is probably the most balanced game mode out there.
Yeah, usually I do with increment like 5 + 5 or something.
Oh yeah, that works too.
Pretty good too, yeah.
And we can do that next time too if you want.
Yeah, increments. Night increments are useful. Okay.
Increments are useful.
Okay, so we're taking. And now is the critical moment. Where is this going? Yeah, you definitely storm me with your pieces pretty quickly, so I have to be careful about that. Let's see.
No, I think I'm realizing the mistake of opening up my knight. That's actually the slightest bit tragic.
Worst comes to worst, it's just a pawn. You have a lot of, no matter what, you have piece activity.
No, the queen and the knight are under attack. That's a problem.
Oh, it's true. That is true. Because if you go queen takes d5, I just knight takes.
Exactly.
I guess either one. Yeah. Well, then you take my b pawn. Yeah. Okay.
It's not looking great for me here.
Yeah, it might be a piece there. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, if it does end up bad there, maybe we can get in one more.
I think that's my
probably a damage control option right there. Queen takes d5. Let's see. And then there's the knight c2 stuff too. So.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a bit problematic. Obviously.
That is very problematic.
Yeah, but I don't think it was pretty hard for either one of us to foresee all the complications. But you would need like 20 minutes to, like we did with the tactics, to calculate all the complexity. Because there are a lot of options. Yeah, I think it's gonna be knight takes though. Knight takes looks fine because my queen guard. Yeah, everything's guarded now.
Yeah.
And I developed the knights. So I guess you avoid trades. I guess you avoid an endgame. Or can you avoid them? Is it viable?
Yeah, I think that's a force.
Go for it then. Okay, so then ideally those situations where you just want to trade off the pawns.
Yeah.
Where you could trade off pawns and try to make the piece kind of moot.
I'm always better in playing in down positions where I'm down material. I don't know. It forces me to be more creative.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let's see how I do this.
And your opponent will often relax, which I try not to do. I mean, I've learned enough lessons from that of losing winning positions.
Mm.
Yeah, you didn't want to go to E3, so you go there. And and I got to play pretty fast because there's no increment. So we'll see. Just trying to play solidly. I guess I could have gone into D3. Yeah, I could have gone for knight D3, but that was the looser option. But that would have been interesting. Let's see. Yeah, E5 makes sense. Get those pawns moving. Yes, interesting scenario here.
No, I was thinking about knight d5 for a second, but no, that actually is a blunder.
Knight diva. Oh, because the rook would just take it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get the 2 pieces for the. Oh, and then it would actually come back and hit the rooks, and then I get the piece. Then I get the exchange back too. Yeah, it would
Exactly.
be winning a piece then. Yeah. So it comes back. Yeah, good choice because I don't think you want to run into E3 with tempo.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably a good choice. I do want to push the pass pawns must be pushed. So I do want to push the E pawn if I can. Let's see. That seems like the critical move. Yeah, let's go with it. Because it, yeah, it definitely has some ideas there. Okay, you blockade it. And of course, we tried to destroy the blockade. She's still got a nice time advantage, so I have to go. Have to be careful.
I don't know. My time advantage definitely is not absolute.
Right. If you're in a difficult position, of course, that's usually you end up spending more time to find the best defense.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's.
I just take it. Yeah, because otherwise, well, I guess knight takes would have been knight takes, bishop takes, and then there's the e. Yeah, it's coming forward then, so it's kind of tough. Okay. So what's going on here? I guess I just take the bishop then, because I have the protection.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I think you could have waited and moved for it if you're gonna give it up. Okay, you take this. I take this. Okay, now you're threatening to come in. I think I just take it.
And honestly, like, you've won the game there.
It's too much. Yeah, it's too much.
That's fairly obvious. Yeah.
Too much material. Yeah, good game.
Yeah, good
So it
game.
just came down to some interesting skirmish. And what's going on with the other game?
Yeah.
How are
Here,
you guys
shall
doing?
I'll stop screen share. Let's see.
We're tied up on material.
Here, one of you want to share your screen?
You guys, yeah, we
Have you
followed.
stopped it? All right.
Are you, William? Are you looking at? Oh, you got it. Okay.
There we go. Cool.
All right. So getting a little low on time too. All right. Cool. And you both just need to bring out one more piece to get fully developed. Oh, this is what's going on here. Interesting moment. Both have loose pieces. So how do you handle that?
Ooh. Ooh. I don't know about you, David. I see something here.
Well, it's a very tactical scenario. I mean, you both have a loose piece. I'm not gonna say anything. I'll leave it to them.
Yeah. I think I see what you're seeing.
Yeah,
Who's
I
that?
saw
I think-
that. That was a not. That was a
that's,
blunder.
oh, that's
I
a good
saw
move.
that.
I was thinking either that or even Bishop E4. I was thinking Bishop E4 also. But yeah, that's a good move
Yeah.
because you can't take it without.
No.
Well, actually, maybe then you just lose the exchange because you get the bishop, he gets the rook. But the other one was Bishop E4. Maybe it might have won more material. Huh? What do you think, William?
Bishop T3 wouldn't have worked because the knight could go back and capture it.
No, Bishop E4. Bishop E4 instead of.
Yeah, Bishop E4. I don't think it's as forceful.
But it hit the rook. The rook was hanging.
Yeah,
And-
like if you play like Bishop E4, I suppose you could play a move like, I don't know, Rook H2.
No, then
And-
you take the knight. Then you just take the knight. But it wins. It wins.
Yeah, I
the-
think you
whereas
get-
this one might just win the exchange.
I don't know.
No,
If he wants to
it's
call- yeah, he
just
calls
not
for-
a good game for me. Yeah.
So
After
you come up
that.
the exchange. And then the knight, but now the knight saves itself. Yeah, so you're up the exchange. You know what I'm saying? The other one's up a piece.
Right.
And I personally like the position because I see another move for
Okay. No, positionally, it's good. I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, positionally, it's really good. But still, I mean, it's still potential for being just down an exchange instead of a full piece. And you can try to defend with just an exchange down. Okay, so do you want, William, you want to get, let me just check real quick. I wasn't sure if I had a lesson or not tonight. Let me just check what he's saying. It doesn't look like it.
I don't know why I did that.
We're not doing that late. We probably distracted you. Sorry, but okay, look, you want to do one more?
sure.
All right.
And if you want to throw some increments in there as well, that would be fine.
Yeah, you want to do what? Or we can do like 5 + 10 or something. 5 + 5, 5 + 10.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, 5 + 10. At least get a little more time to think about it. You rack
Mhm.
up some time in between moves. When
Yeah.
it gets low. All right, so I'll challenge you on there. Well, and we were both going for the speculative line, so well, maybe this time we'll be more careful. But that was fun. That was a fun line that we went into. It just turned out, it didn't work in that case, but mine was a little sketchy myself. So 5, 10. All right. Just challenge you to that.
Awesome.
Good luck.
The London game.
The English, yeah, or the London.
The London is like where you move like C5. Well, this is personally like my least favorite opening to play.
To play against or to
How did you know my weak spot?
or to play against it?
I don't like playing against it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is annoying. That's why I like it. Yeah, it's annoying to face. I used to play it all the time. I've been messing around with like B3, Bishop B2, some of the Nimza Larson and stuff. Kind of more hyper modern openings. I've been messing with that recently.
I think we got the idea.
Good game.
Yeah.
Were there too many pieces left on the board for your opponent?
I was at a pawn going up.
Yeah, I didn't have anything going for me.
Let me see the position. Is it? I can't. Let me see the final position.
You want a rematch?
Oh, it's just a rook.
Yeah, sure.
Good game, you guys. Okay, this time I'll try not to just. Hopefully, I didn't distract you guys when we were looking at trying to analyze your position.
It definitely when like y'all said, I see a move, and it's like I'm just so scared that I'm gonna mess up big.
No, I
You
saw
won't
the
think, okay,
move
you won't
right
fall.
when I made it. I'm like, oh god, this is a blunder, and I was just like praying you wouldn't see it.
I almost didn't. Not the Sicilian.
Oh, you are playing Sicilian? Oh, that's my favorite.
Guess bishop blocks.
Yeah.
Okay, develop the knight. Yeah, one of those scenarios where the queen could be in the center as long as she can't be bothered, since the knight can't go to c6.
Yeah. I personally don't like the position I'm in. I'm gonna get out of there. I'm gonna get straight out of Dodge.
Yeah, same here. King's castle.
Hmm.
Huh. Interesting. Well, you gained some development, huh? So you like to do gambits, huh?
I do like gambits.
Well, yeah, you'll get some play for that. Let's see. I think I'd take it though. We'll take it and see if prove the compensation for it.
Yeah. Hmm. I don't know how much I liked that though. I don't know.
Well, at least you get your pieces. Yeah, you were a little behind the development, so at least you finish your development now pretty quickly, probably.
Yeah, and honestly, yeah, I like that move. This move actually
I was
seems.
thinking about that as a possibility for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, it's like, where does my queen go?
Well, I'm very worried about this D file. The D file looks very open for you specifically.
Well, it will be soon. It will be, right?
It will be. It will be. I'm trying to anticipate
Right,
that.
anticipating that. True, true.
Yeah.
I think my queen just goes to a3. I don't see any other viable place. Because otherwise she gets attacked by something. At least now she'll be somewhat safe for a bit. Okay. Yeah, speaking of the D file, so.
Even the C file, yeah.
Yeah, D and C are going to open up, and then maybe use the E pawn eventually. Let's see. Yeah, interestingly, if I take your pawn, I think your queen can take back and activate. So we end up.
I don't know if I like that. I don't know. Well, it's
a little,
not a bad idea.
loose.
But I'm looking at E4 though. E4. Well, no, E4 doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not that easy. I probably my correct play here is something like rook to D1. Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. Since there's a pin on the diagonal, I might be able to move it. It's a very tricky situation. Maybe like 95 it becomes possible.
95 is a good move.
My neck is a bit loose out there. I'll try to avoid that. Yeah, maybe it's just to take. Maybe just to take it. Yeah, as you were saying, like maybe take and then play for E4.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're okay. I think you're okay there.
I don't know.
Unless I have some kind of move to keep. I like keeping the pin on that diagonal though. Like knight D4, keep the pin. Because I don't think you want to let me take on B7 and take the rook. So
I can neither confirm nor deny.
yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely leaning toward knight D4. Let's try that. Seems like it restrains you a bit. Because I don't want your pieces becoming too active.
Mm-hmm. Oh no. And you also have a very interesting move if you were to play a knight to b5. That's actually,
Yeah, I was looking at that.
it's a little bit of an outpost position, and it
Hmm.
would make me uncomfortable if you then moved that thing over to d6.
Yeah, but right, hopping like a
Yeah, it's a little unsettling.
or it can go to the other thing I like is it can go to f5. So yeah, and I play, or if nothing else, I play. There's no pawn that can attack it. So the idea is that I have a good central square, play e3, secure it, maybe the other night, and then
Oh no,
rooks can, yeah, you just
I'm
challenge it,
thinking about transfer.
and then rooks can get out there. Okay. Yeah, now the pin's less of an issue for you now.
Yeah.
Let's see. So yeah, we're looking at knight b5. If I go knight b5, it's quite interesting actually. Knight b5 now, because if you take on c4, then I probably just take back with my knight, and my knights are really aiming into d6. So it could be, at least it's unsettling for you, yeah, to come in there. But is it concrete? That's the question.
That is.
Let's just go with it. Let's see where this goes.
Hmm.
Because I don't mind takes. I don't mind my knight taking on c4. It seems active.
Yeah.
When in doubt, just maximize your pieces, right? Try to make them as active as you can.
Oh, geez, what happened? Okay, hold on.
So
Disconnect.
you lost the game, or I mean,
No, it disconnected me for a split second.
no, you're still there. Yeah.
Okay, good. Honestly, this doesn't seem like such a bad move.
Interestingly, there's still a pin on the d pawn. So
There is.
there's still a pin.
But when you play if you play knight d6,
and the bishop.
the effects are lessened to some
You
extent.
have bishop, right. You've cleared the square for your bishop. You've contested the diagonal, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you'll eventually end up defending your bishop. So I think now's the moment to get my rook on the d file. Let's see. Am I worried about just again always the balance between attack and defense, thinking what do you possibly have? Because if I know I'm good, that you don't have any real threats against me, then I can do what I need to do, right? So knight g4, for example, f2. I don't really see you orchestrating too much against f2. But yeah, rook ad1 is safer probably, but I can use, like obviously one rook goes to the d file, one rook goes to the c file. That's pretty normal. Let's see. Yeah, I just don't see the queen coming in yet. Yeah, I'm used to playing on low time on the increment. So,
Oh, geez, you got a minute left.
yeah, but it'll catch up hopefully.
Gotcha.
Okay, this is tricky though. Let's see. I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with the safer move because I might want it on e1 anyway. It's always a tricky, the perennial question. Which rook? Which rook to move?
That's where I think I'm gonna do what's called a pro gamer move.
Interesting. I'm trying to figure out what the idea is. Because wait, I have knight c7, right?
Yeah.
Or knight d6. Let's see. Oh, but I'm low on time. Yeah, see, that's where you can try and work. But a lot of times, people try and do that. We're like, okay, you're low on time, so they'll do something crazy. Wait, hold on. Do I really want that? Maybe I want that bishop. No, I'll take the exchange. We'll see where this goes. And then I'll try but especially with the 10-second increment, it's kind of harder to swindle them.
It is.
But if you're playing with like a 2-second increment,
and honestly, you benefit by the fact that I didn't even see that you could play knight c7.
oh,
I just decided to instinctively working.
I think your connection's breaking. You said you decided to what?
The thing is, I'm not used to playing on this mode, so I'm like, oh yeah, I don't take the time that I need to sometimes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's
That,
right.
that's
It's
the real
more
problem
time
that I have.
to try to have that conviction, or
Yeah.
to some degree.
That's good for you.
Yeah, it gets me in trouble sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
hmm. Okay, I think it's about time to break the tension there. Or is it? Well, I don't know. Rook C1 is tempting. Let's try that. Okay, now we'll finally take. Now it's about time. Yeah, you have a lot of active piece play here, so I gotta be careful. I was gonna go E4. I'm like, okay, let's try and keep this pin. Try to just trade off some pieces.
Yeah.
You got too much. The pieces are doing too much in the center. Yes, and then you get back. Okay, you're at 3 seconds, then you get back up to 30 pretty quick. So, well, in regular tournaments these days, they're doing a lot of 30-second increments.
Yeah, they are.
Check that trickster knight down.
You know, honestly, Queen C8 is probably really deadly.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Or like there's
It
like
might be, it might be early. I don't know. It might be early to do it.
I don't know. There would be a fork with my knight. You would force me to play Queen G5 and then H4.
I think you have Queen D6 though. Do I have Rook T1 then?
I don't know.
Rook take. Oh, you'd have some liquid. It might force liquidation, but I just feel like yeah, I'd have to calculate that for a while to make sure that it doesn't backfire. So yeah, because you could play like Rook F8, so but it would make you retreat. Yeah, so it has some poison to it. But I think I'm like kind of trying to. I'm not necessarily a defensive player, but just knowing that.
Yeah, I
I'm a
rarely
player who wants to win.
I'm rarely ever an offensive player because I don't know. But like when I'm on offensive, I have a tendency to throw everything out there. With defense, at least I know what I'm doing.
That's interesting. Okay, so fortunately, well, yeah, it looks like because of the back rank main threat, it doesn't look like he could really win the pawn. I was gonna go e4, but I'm like, okay, let's avoid some sacks. But yeah, I mean, I guess I try to be a balanced player. I like, well, for example, Reshevsky is very like Fischer. Well, Fischer is good in that too, but Reshevsky's like a positional player who's also dynamic. I like that kind of style.
Yeah.
I guess also like, yeah, there's a few players like that. And then Fischer's just super complex. But
I don't know if I could be a Fischer.
What's that?
I don't know if I could be a Fischer.
You don't know if you could what?
I don't know if I could play like Bobby Fischer style.
No, I mean just right. I mean just borrowing from it a bit. But his ability to handle complex, that's really his key. That very objective moves, almost ugly moves sometimes. They look ugly, but they're just correct. He's just got his iron. I've heard it described as like an iron logic. He just knew the chessboard. He just knew it in and out.
Which is pretty impressive, yeah.
Yeah. Or someone like Kasparov, every other player they have like something they're strong at, maybe some weaknesses. But he was pretty well rounded, which made him potentially the strongest ever. Carlsen's pretty well rounded too. Probably a little less of an attacking player though. Yeah, I could learn a lot from Karpov, but I wouldn't say he's my style, but it's a little more drawish. But you can learn a lot from Karpov's games though in terms of defense and positional chess and things like that. His technique is excellent. To learn from his endgame technique. Or so, for example, like right now, you can use an idea like h4. Just restrain your knight, restrict them, so you don't have to worry too much about things.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was going to come in there with my rook too. Should have done that right away, actually. Okay. Yeah, so I pretty much stop the main threats, and then I can start to try to trade queens or bring my rooks in or something. Okay. That's a good move. Well, I guess I have time. Yeah, now, okay, fine. Now I'll do your move. Now I'll do queen c.
I don't know how to say this, but I don't like my position.
Well, yeah, you got to activate. If you can activate your knight somehow, you can create threats. But
unfortunately, I got to move myself around.
Hard to do it right now. Oh, yeah. We go king h7 maybe.
No, because then you play rook c7.
Rook c7.
And then my knight. Well, then I have to move my queen and.
Well, the key is that the piece, because of my pawn structure, the pieces don't have entry points.
Actually, I am seeing something here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
You can share your game. We just finished ours, so.
Okay. I don't have enough time to share. You want to share yours? I'm too low on time. Let's see.
Why am I not on the Zoom?
Did you hear them? You heard their
yeah,
comment?
no, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear, but.
No, someone else said about sharing our Zoom.
Yeah, like I don't have a Zoom link.
Oh, I'll do it here. Just if you don't move in a second. Here,
Yeah.
let me just here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys finished your game?
Yeah.
We have a very interesting situation. I have an extra exchange. I have a rook for a knight.
There we go. Okay.
We're
let's see here.
We're maneuvering a lot.
Continue.
And yeah, William is trying to.
There we go.
There it is. William some counterplay here.
Not really much of counterplay, so much as damage control.
Well, I mean, but still, the fact that I'm so low on time. The fact that I'm so low on time gives you.
It gives me a minimal advantage, I'd say.
Gives you some possibilities. Well, I think I can survive this sacrifice idea. I'm going to try this out.
I wouldn't say it's much of a sacrifice.
No, I'm saying your sacrifice on h4.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your h4. I'm like, okay, that looks a little scary, but I'm looking at it saying, okay, I think I can either ignore it or just take it and, yeah, I take and go king f2. I think it's okay. But I have to carefully look at that.
I think I'm forced to do this, honestly. That seems like a forced play.
I guess I'd take. I could either take or come over. Okay. And then where's your queen going? Yeah, the key thing is once you have that exchange, that you get the file control. Because now that
Exactly.
now that I have the file control, it's harder. Okay, but then you have some counterplay here. So again, just we're talking about restraining your opponent. So just kind of like a move like this. I'm not exactly sure what to do yet, but I don't have enough time. But just making a move like queen c2, stop his queen threat, stop his threat against a2, and just solidify, and then we'll go from there. Okay, more activity for you. Yeah, so I'm just gonna have to move over one. And then eventually, if you stop their main counterplay, eventually your extra material should be worth something. I think this works here.
Ooh, actually, oh no!
You saw that. You saw that.
I did see that. I saw that a little late though.
The idea of the discovered, yeah, the E5 discovered
The
check.
E5 discovered check. That
Oh,
is
wait,
pain,
well,
that
you
is painful.
support me with your knight, but if we liquidate, then I have the extra rook. So you can't liquidate everything.
I can't. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. It's we both have tactics. It's just a question of whose work first.
Exactly.
Okay. Seems like an interesting response, a good defense. Because, well, okay, I can take your knight, but at least I think you're keeping. The key is you need to keep things murky as murky as possible. Because again, I'm always low on time here. Okay.
Well, I think you got the time thing in the book.
Well, the extra, right? The extra. Well, what I could do is I can go king. I see that the key is to find the right formation, like in the puzzle we looked at. So I realized, okay, if I have my king on h2, I'm looking at this. Like, look, as long as I have this formation with the second rank covered, there's no more checks, and then I can go about my business.
Exactly.
But the key is to understand the right setup. So like, it's not always about calculation, but just saying, okay, where do the pieces need to be for things to work for me? Well, obviously now I want f6 checks. You probably don't want that. That pawn's rushing in. Oh, Robert is joining. Looks like. Did you guys let him in?
No. I think it's pretty quick to wrap up the game from there.
Well, it's still, yeah, I still have to prove it though. Oh, but since I cover, let's see. Yeah, I think queen b2, something like that. Or queen c3 is fine because there's no more checks. And there's no stalemate since you have a lot of pawns left, so there wouldn't be any stalemate possibilities.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, yeah, if you really need to in positions like this, like I was talking about, you could sacrifice. Let's see, probably not necessary here. But yeah, if you really need to, you can always like just trade everything down, like sacrifice the rook, and then just be up to pawns. Okay, let's see.
No. Rook h7. No.
Right. There's that. Yeah, wait.
No.
Also just a mundane. Yeah, we could just do them on something mundane, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. That's good.
C6.
That's good. I see that. Yeah.
That was a good game. That was a good game. Good sparring matches. So, but yeah, you're already playing really well. But we'll figure out what you guys need to work on and analyze. Wait, who was there when we did some game analysis? Oh, and Robert's there. Hey, Robert, how you doing? I think we met briefly one time. Right? You were like one of the meetings at least.
We're doing all right.
Yeah, or 2 times I think. But so yeah, we had some good games. Yeah, we had some really good games. And so what do you guys think you can work on based on that?
Position.
Positional chess?
Yeah, position. Yeah.
Yeah,
From my
dynamic tactical chess that just throw your pieces out there, but then it's like, okay, the long term, what's your long-term strategy? And often that involves your pawn structure too. How are you utilizing your pawn? Because pawns stick around, right? That's
Exactly.
like they call the bare bone, like the skeleton, kind of the bare bones of your position, or like your foundation. And that often it changes, but if it gets locked up, especially, it just stays like that for a long time, and they move much slower than other pieces. So It's kind of, your pawn
Long
structure.
term.
So we're talking about, how pawn structure plays in, and is related with piece activity and things like that in your long-term plans. And what else? How about Andres and Patrick's game?
One thing I noticed from the first game was I don't really know how to play a lot of openings. I basically only know how to do like the king's pawn opening, because in our first game he did queen's pawns opening, and next thing I know, I don't feel like I'm in a really comfortable position.
Right. So make sure you know at least how to handle e4 and d4, your two main options. We'll make sure you guys have that down.
Yeah,
And how about Andres? So you guys play twice or once?
Twice.
we played twice.
And
Yeah, for
anything?
me, I think it was just like keeping track of all my pieces and making sure they're not loose. Also, time management. I got under 1 minute in both our games.
Okay. And you were able to pull it off though with just with under a minute?
I mean, I lost both games, but sure.
What's that?
I lost both games.
Oh, you ended up losing. Okay. So okay. So Patrick, even though you won, you still learned something. Yeah, good. And
Yeah, there were
got an
definitely
increment-
some
got an increment.
places where I was definitely in not a good place.
Okay. So it was it sounds like it was kind of scramble at the end. And you said loose piece. You said, Andres, your pieces were kind of loose.
I think so.
Yeah, that's an important part of it, because that's kind of in terms of the prevention aspect. Just, loose pieces fall off. So just try to avoid having loose pieces. And as we were talking, William, in our game, I was like, this feels a little like I try to avoid those types of things when I knew it was, or like one case might happen. Okay, it's going to be loose for a second, but I think I can handle it. I looked at your possibilities, but if you're going to do it, just kind of be extra vigilant if you're going to have loose pieces that are not, anchored in by pawns.
Exactly.
Supporting each other, or at least, okay, I was planning to come through c4 and there's like a b5 knight, and I was like, okay, at least I get some activity and it comes into d6. Well, I never got there. you didn't
Exactly.
quite let me get there, but that was good struggles. So yeah, great games. And then we can do some in-depth analysis next time if you guys want. Pick a couple of your games, and we did that a bit last time, right? We just talk about your games and learn some lessons from them, and as well as looking at grandmaster games. And let's focus on positional chess. Make sure you guys got your strategy down. And then if you kind of like request an opening, so let's say you want to learn more d4 openings, we'll see, okay, how do you play what are some options? So every time we look at a grandmaster game, you're going to see a different, of course, very strong opening play by each side. So you'll get an idea of different openings. So we won't just look at, the Italian game or something, or the Roy Lopez. We'll look at, the Grunfeld or King's Indian, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Any, you guys
Well,
have any
gentlemen,
questions?
how did it go? How did this format go of, Zoom and chess.com, etc.?
Yeah, it worked well.
Cool.
It was fun. Yeah, we spent about 30, 40 minutes, probably 35, 40 minutes. Some of those positions we got pretty deep into it. Like we were spending maybe 17 minutes or 20 minutes on one position, because there's a lot, especially the last position. It got quite difficult. So you guys did some great analysis, and just looking at. Sorry you missed the earlier part, Robert, but we were just basically talking about methods to solve tactics, looking at forcing moves, calculation trees, things like that. But it's recorded, right? If you want to look back at it.
It is indeed.
It's live streamed.
Live stream. It's
So
on
I think
YouTube.
I think YouTube saves it.
Yeah, it should save it if you wanted to. You can do that. Yeah.
So like whenever
Okay, we had to get the technology set up, then we were good. So, what's that?
So things like whenever you find yourself in a situation where there's a tactic to play against you, how to get a way out of those. Like
Well, we were doing tactics for your side, but a lot of
okay.
a big theme though was kind of defensive calculation. So making a calculation tree saying, okay, I go here, they go here, I go here, they go here. But essentially doing that defensive calculation, like in one of them in particular, where there were these really scary threats they had, and there's this kind of teaser line where if you try to attack them right away with your queen, then you leave your own king exposed. So it's really that balance when you're calculating your line, saying, okay, what's the best thing what my opponent's got? I think there's a book on that called, I think it's called Recognizing Your Opponent's Resources or something, but that's a huge part of chess. Essentially prophylaxis. That's a big part of positional chess. What can my opponent do? How can I restrain them? And maybe I'll show you guys something like that next time for positional chess. Just looking at a great game of like a Capablanca masterpiece, Jose Raul Capablanca, where he was just great at squeezing his opponent like a boa constrictor. So looking at that, but yeah, but in terms of forcing moves, so to review, we have capture checks, captures, and threats. So we kind of work down from there. So it'll save you a lot, especially in puzzles. It's pretty much always checks and captures. So you pretty much know it's going to be one of those moves. But every single move, you should do the same thing. So you look at, okay, let's say you're imagining, okay, if I go here, I do this check, my opponent moves, then you should start looking at a check again. And if that doesn't work, then you work your way down to capture and threat. Like I threaten to check or capture. So you work your way down that hierarchy of, I call it kind of the hierarchy of forcing moves. But yeah, you have to do the same thing every move as you're calculating, and that should lead you to the most efficient way to solving the tactic. And then once in a while, it's some quiet random move. Like, okay, but usually it's because the main thing you want to do doesn't work out. There's, I would call it like a glitch in the line. So if there's a glitch in the main thing you want to do, then you might have to insert something. That's when you find some brilliant move, like some brilliant quiet move. But it's rooted in something more basic usually. But because that thing doesn't work out, okay, now I have to, there's a back rank mate that my opponent has. Okay, I have to throw my H pawn at them, free my king, and then I can do this beautiful tactic, right? But it doesn't work because if I'm not watching my opponent, they're going to get me first. So a lot of it is that interplay between being very cognizant of your opponent's possibilities, what they can do to you, and stop and restraining. And yeah, like I said, a Karpov type style of just restraining them, even if maybe it's not going to work, but just taking their thunder away from them, just ensuring they don't have anything, makes your life a lot easier. So you'll avoid any shocking counterattacks and things like that. So yeah, we'll work on all that stuff.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool. So gentlemen, next Monday, again at next Monday at 7:30 again, is our next team practice, and hopefully we can plan, have some sort of a mental goal of December of having some kind of a tournament amongst regional teams. And then, did I have any other announcements? Oh yeah, General Chess Night Thursday.
Well, okay, so I guess that's when you guys will get some more sparring. I mean, hey, if anyone wants to keep going, you guys can keep sparring tonight. If you want to go late, otherwise, I guess Thursday is always a good time for that. Get some practice games in and kind of apply what we worked on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great.
Sure.
Yeah, you guys are a great team. I think you're really attentive, and you picked it all up super